All right, so I finally got the full self-driving beta on my Tesla Model Y Performance. My safety score hasn't been the best, hence why I finally got it when Tesla finally rolled out the software amongst all cars with full self-driving. So today is going to be my first drive with full self-driving. Personally, I think the most impressive thing is the full self-driving beta visualization. It is able to see so much more. It's able to render more objects. It's able to see further. I mean, you can see like where the curbs are. You can see each individual car. It's really impressive and kind of makes the older full self-driving beta visualization seem like a toy. So it started to rain a little bit, but I don't think that that's going to impact our drive much here. I've set up a route. I'm over here in South Jersey. I'm going to be pulling out of this neighborhood. I'm then going to go through another neighborhood, kind of down some smaller state highway roads. Then we'll go through Main Street in Morristown and end up over out towards Maple Shade. This whole entire drive should be about 20 minutes. And we've got two camera angles. So I've got the camera angle here that is going to be kind of looking at the screen and then looking through the windshield. And I've also got a 360 camera up on the roof. And my thought process is you guys can see straight ahead of the car, but also it'll be able to look to the left as well as to the right when we're making turns. So the reason I wanted to start here inside of this neighborhood is because we've got a circle like straight ahead. So I want to see how the car fares going around the circle. So let's see, we'll kind of pull out a little bit here, let the full self-driving turn on. There we go. So we'll go ahead, we'll enable self-driving. I'm gonna turn the speed down. We don't want to be driving too fast. So this is like my first full drive. Now, when I initially updated, I actually had my car take me down the street to Wawa, grab some food, and then I came back to my apartment. So I've already been using full self-driving like slightly. I went on like one little quick drive, but this will be like my first big drive with full self-driving. Now, the one thing I'm a little bit worried about, it's stopping, which is I guess nice. The one thing I'm a little bit worried about is like the car hitting the curb. I'm super protective over the rims on my car. This is pretty crazy. Wow, it handled that really well. I'm super protective over the rims on my car. Like I never want to scratch them. I never want to ding them. I never want to dent them. I've already had to bring my car in to get the rims realigned and re-straightened because I've been hitting potholes and things like that. So the two things I'm worried about are like potholes and hitting the curb. So those are two things I really want to look out for here. Now, I live in Philadelphia. I don't live over here in South Jersey. The reason that I wanted to come out here to South Jersey to do this video is because the roads are a little bit, I would say, easier to traverse. So we've got a big tree over here to the left that the car needs to creep around to make sure that we're good. And it looks like it sees these cars coming, obviously. So it's going to light up the cars that it sees in blue, which is nice. And once that car passes, we should be good to go. Nice. So it handled that pretty well. I kind of wish it didn't make that stop. I wish it just pulled all the way through, but maybe it wanted to check one more time. Okay, so we're off to a pretty good start here. I'm going to leave the map up on the screen just so that you guys can see like where we're driving, and then we'll keep the visualization here up on the left side. Now, the visualization is just completely blowing my mind. It sees so much information. It sees so much data. Nice. It took that turn really smooth. So I'm also just going to be driving like the speed limit for most of these drives, for most of this drive, I should say. Usually I like to drive, I would say, a little bit more enthusiastically, but I am going to be just continuing to drive the speed limit. You know, driving a full self-driving car, not that there's many out there, you kind of need to be aware that it's still learning, that it's still in the beginning phases, so you kind of want to take it slow. I never want to be regarded as that person that looks like an idiot on the street, and I feel like sometimes when driving the Tesla, it does things that make you look a little bit weird. Like if you're driving on the highway, for example, and you want to make an auto turn or an auto lane change to get over to the left lane or the right lane, sometimes in the middle of that lane change, it just completely throws you to the side and says, no, auto lane change unavailable, which is a little bit weird. So the big thing I really wanted to accomplish in this video is kind of get my feet wet, or I guess this first drive is get my feet wet trying to drive on some of these back roads, because again, up until this point, my car had full self-driving, but I was only able to use it on, you know, the highway. Ooh, a little bit unsure. So that's the one thing I noticed is it's very like herky-jerky in a sense. Let's see, we've got actually another circle here. I didn't even know. So the car is coming to a stop. It wants to wait, which is nice, I guess, even though there's no stop sign. I mean, really, we have the right of way here. All right, so it's doing pretty well. It's also really cool to see it drive like on roads with no lines. Okay, so I am going to remove this stop as we get closer, so that then brings us to our next stop on our trip here. So we've got 4 different, I guess, points that I've put in so that we can go on a backroads path here. So again, it's really interesting to kind of see it being used in an area with no lines whatsoever. I mean, up until this point when full self-driving beta was, is now in wide release and it's coming to more cars, the only way that people were able to use full self-driving is on a road that had lines. But now it's actually able to see the world around it. It's picking up the curb as the lines in a sense, which is pretty cool. And that, again, kind of makes me feel a little bit better as the car's driving, that it's not going to just go and randomly hit a curb. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I am going to remove this trip, move that stop, hit done, and now it's just going to bring us to the next stop, to the next home. The reason I kind of put these 2 homes in, or these 2 points, is just because I want the car to continue to drive me through the neighborhood. I just wanted to get a feel for, the car going through an area with unpainted lines, unpainted roads. And in this sense, it's handling it really well. I mean, even if a car were to come and pass by, they'd have plenty of room. It's sticking to the right side, so it's doing pretty well. Now, I wonder how it'd handle a situation like that, where if someone was coming around, would it stop? Would it know that it has the right of way? It'd probably immediately stop to figure out what to do. And then once the other person stopped, it would go and continue to drive through. I guess probably just being as safe and cautious as possible. I also tried to pick a drive that had some fairly intricate roads, where the car would need to make left turns, where the car would need to make right turns, where the car would, obviously face circles in a couple of different ways, or roundabouts, which the roundabouts feel a little bit uneasy to me. Roundabouts aren't really all that common around where I live, so it's not like I would encounter them every single day, but those roundabouts were just a little bit weird. The car kind of came to a complete stop even though it didn't need to, so the way that I see it is like full self-driving, and really I'm coming from a place of watching a lot of videos with full self-driving up until I've gotten it now. Actually, let me just remove our next trip, and then this will bring us now into the downtown of Morristown. So yeah, when I think about full self-driving, I mean, it's there, right? Like, the car is capable of doing everything, but it's just incapable of doing it like super well. Like, obviously it's doing this part of the drive, I would say 100%. Fine, like there's nothing that I would be doing differently, but at the roundabout I would have just continued on through because I didn't have a stop sign. I had the right of way, right? Or I would have slowly crept up on that first left turn where we kind of had those trees on the left side. I mean, it came to a full stop and then started creeping. So I would just say, like, the biggest thing that needs to be improved kind of from what I've seen is just like the smoothness of the car and its driving, which will come over time. I mean, the hardest part for Tesla's team and for anybody building a full self-driving platform or software is actually getting it to recognize the world around it. And I would say, looking at the visualization, they've done a really good job. Oh, it's making that turn really wide. That was a really wide turn. All right, so making a right turn here. This is another right turn where, we'll have some cars coming here from the left side. So it's nice to know that the car will highlight vehicles that are... I made that turn really smooth. It's nice to know that the car will highlight vehicles that it sees as potential, I guess you could say, threats in blue, because you can kind of know that the car knows what it's seeing and what it's doing. Because you wouldn't want to just start pulling out in front of a car. Obviously, that's why you're still here in control of the vehicle, so that if the car does something weird, you can take control. Which, I mean, up until this point, I don't foresee me needing to do any sort of takeover while driving here. The only thing I will say is, like, if I encounter a big, massive pothole, I'll probably end up taking control and going around it if I see the car is going to hit it. Again, I mean, I've dented my rims here on my Model Y. It's the performance version, so it's got the 21-inch Uber turbine wheels. So it's got lower profile tires. They're not the lowest of profiles, but again, lower profile tires, and they do dent fairly easily. Another thing I love is that you can make this full screen now, which is pretty cool. I mean, that is awesome. And to see this big jump from full self-driving, what it was, what the visualization looked like before the beta, before this, auto steer in city streets. It's so impressive to see, how far it's come, and it's just kind of cool to think about where it can be in the next 10 years, because obviously it's going to be very, very different. Like, is this going to be a complete color map of what the car sees around it in real time? Like, will that display as a Honda CR-V in front of me, right? So there's going to be, a lot of really impressive changes over the coming years, and it's cool to kind of jump in right now at the beginning, start documenting the progress so that I can look back on this video and be like, wow, do you remember when we thought that was impressive? So now we're coming up on a red light here. This should be a right turn on red. It can obviously see the cars coming from the left here. A lot of them are making a left-hand turn, so the car is going to stop. It should then creep forward. Does it think that I should go straight here? Oh, actually I do need to keep going straight. I'm not paying attention to the map. So yeah, we need to go straight and then we'll make a right turn. I kind of wish, you know what? If I put my turn signal on, I wonder, will it make a right turn here? Can I force it to make a right turn? If I hit the accelerator a little, will it go? It's coming to a stop. Nah, I don't think I'm going to get it to go right, but that's cool. I'll just turn my turn signal off so nobody is confused. Nah, I was going to, you know what? Nah. I was going to just plug in a different address and see if I could force it to go right, but we'll stay in line here. We'll stay with what we're doing. So coming up to this red light, or this green light now, we'll be making a right turn. Or no, will we? I'm all confused. Again, I don't live over here. I work over here. So like I come over here, I do real estate photography, so I come over here to photograph homes. And so I'm not over here like every single day, but I still have somewhat of a lay of the land. All right, so we've got to yield. And the car took that like a champ. I would say that that is one of the smoothest turns I've had on this entire ride, which is nice. I'm going to back the speed off a little. Actually, it is 45. So now our next stop is going to be coming up down Main Street through Morristown. So we're going to get into a little bit more of a congested area where there could be pedestrians crossing the street. There could be people riding their bike, although it's 50 out and raining. So I'm not sure how many people would be riding their bike in this weather. But still, we do have a little bit more of, I would say, some different obstacles that we would encounter here. Let's actually add that destination in after where we're going. So I'm going to click on the school here. I'm going to add this, and I'm not going to add it as my next stop, but I'll add that after right there. So I love that new feature, being able to like change the map, change your points, add these waypoints. I know that was like somebody at a Tesla event like yelled out, add waypoints, and they ended up doing it. But really, like on my day-to-day, it makes things so easy, being able to jump in the car, add all my locations, see what my battery life is between spots. So that is really nice. All right, so sorry for the confusion there. My GoPro overheated, so I am in the same spot at where the GoPro overheated. Actually, I'm a little bit further back, but I spun around. I blasted the AC in my car, so it's super cold in here, but hopefully now the GoPro doesn't overheat. Okay, so getting back on track here, we're driving again into Morristown, into kind of like the downtown area. So this is like I would say, main stretch. It's Main Street, so the car's going a little fast. It's going to slam on its brakes, which sucks. Yeah, that is something that Teslas are like notorious for. Especially when like on the highway and you're kind of coming around and the traffic starts slowing down, it just slams on the brakes, which is super annoying. Now, I didn't notice this, but coming up here is actually a fairly interesting intersection. This is like almost like a 5-point intersection. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of different ways to go. We are unfortunately taking the easy path of just driving directly through the intersection, but nonetheless, this would have been pretty interesting if we had to go a different way. Now, I brought up potholes. Morristown, Main Street right here is like the worst for potholes. We gotta slow this down because it's only 35. This used to be like the worst for potholes. They have actually repaved it, but I know down here it's going to get pretty rough. So the reason I'm saying that is I apologize if the camera starts shaking like crazy, because my car will be shaking like crazy, but that is just something that we've got to get through. I also, on the GoPro, actually tried lowering the resolution to 4K just so that hopefully it won't overheat. But yeah, getting back to kind of what I was touching on earlier, we're getting into a little bit more of a congested part of the town here. So we might encounter some different obstacles, which should be pretty cool, whether it's pedestrians, whether it's, cars looking to make a left turn and my car might go around them. So it should be pretty cool to see what we encounter. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. God, see, this is terrible. This is something I would have gone around, but I'm just going to kind of let it do its thing. All right, so I'm going to remove this next stop and have it loop us up and around. We'll see which way it wants to take us. So it looks like we'll be going straight and then making a right onto Chester Avenue. Man, these roads are so bad up here. That is the thing, like in the Northeast, the roads are just so tough. And that's just kind of why I'm thinking about, like, in the future, full self-driving, how does it combat a road like that? Like, you don't want to consistently drive over a bunch of potholes and stuff like that. So how can a car, in this case the Tesla, full self-driving, understand that there's a pothole, dodge that pothole, mark that pothole for other cars to know? It makes me wonder, like, what that future looks like. All right, so we're making a right turn here at this light, which it looks like we can make a right turn on red. I wonder if it's going to squeeze me through this car. Yeah, we actually have enough room, so it looks like it'll put the turn signal on. And all right, so it says no turn on red. I wonder if it knows it can't turn on red. Comes to a stop. It's going to try to do it. It's going to try to make a right turn on red. And it went nice and around that curb. I like to see that. I like to see that. Nice. That was a nice smooth turn again. All right, so we've got some train tracks coming up here, and there's like only one train a week that rides through here, but I just wonder if it would know that there's a train and if it would stop. You know what I mean? Like, could you imagine if it just kept going and I got destroyed by a train? I don't know why I'm laughing about that. So the drive up to this point has been nice and smooth. I'm going to remove our next stop just so that we can get to where we're going a little bit faster. So now it should weave us through some of these back streets, which should be interesting because, like, this is what everyday people will be driving on. The car is coming to a complete stop. I think it wants to turn around. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So it took a second for the navigation to catch up. And I guess the navigation wanted me to literally turn around right there, and the car just came to a complete stop. That's kind of my fault for just continuing to switch our location. But again, I kind of just want to make sure we have this route down. And I kind of want to figure out like a good route that I can take that will drive me through a consistent area with good obstacles to kind of test how the car does. Every single time that I come up to an area of kind of, that it's going to be tested, like back there, I almost wish that there was another car coming towards me to see how the car handled that. So the rain fortunately stopped, which is nice. And up to this point, the car, look, it even sees the leaves there. It's going around the leaves. You could tell, I mean, it went to the left a little, went around. I will say one thing. From looking at other people's videos and maybe you watching this video, you probably think that the car is driving really smooth, and it is, but when you're making turns and when you're doing different, I would say higher level tasks, you can notice the car is a little bit jerky in its movements. Like, it's jerky in its left-hand turns. The right-hand turns are actually really smooth, but the left-hand turns seem to be a little bit jerky. And again, like as I mentioned, those are things that Tesla will just continue to iron out over time. I'm also interested in just going around to different areas and trying full self-driving in different environments. I mean, this is my first time using full self-driving as a whole and my first time driving in Morristown. So, like, being in Philly, my natural instinct was, let me go into the streets of Philadelphia and try to drive this down the Ben Franklin Parkway. Let me try to, take the car and drive, around City Hall, for example. But that was not what I wanted to do on the very first time because, again, it's my first time driving with it, so I kind of want to get my feet wet with a little bit of an easier drive and then challenge it in the future. I like to see that it's like making that slow creep up. Like, that gives me a lot of confidence. So we're just kind of driving through these neighborhoods at this point. It's almost treating the yield like a stop sign. There's a person right there. Hi there. Cool. It's doing a great job at navigating. It almost kind of makes you like smile in a sense. Like I remember the very first time when I was using full self-driving. I'm gonna slow this down because this is a really rough. Yeah, like this is gonna suck. Going over the train tracks. I remember the first time using autopilot on the Tesla, driving on a highway. I was on 76, and seeing how the car was able to just effortlessly spin the wheel and keep with the curve of the road was just so impressive. And now it's kind of like getting that feeling all over again, except it's almost amplified because the car's doing so much more than just keeping with the curve in the road. It's analyzing everything around it. It's stopping at stop signs, putting its turn signal on, making sure it's not going to crash or run into anything. So we've got a couple stop signs up here. The car will obviously come to a complete stop. It'll check. It's actually showing the crosswalk. Oh, it sees that car. I'm going to give it the accelerator so my car's not stopping. So right there, I hit the accelerator. The car, see, I don't understand that. The car came to a stop directly in the center of the intersection. Like, I would have been hit, right? Like, if anything, I would have rather the car sped up and got me through the intersection. So that's just another case of it being, I would say, a little overly cautious. Like, why stop me in the dead center of the intersection? Nice turn. Now we're cruising. Yeah, so that was probably the biggest hang-up that I've experienced. I mean, that fence was a little bit tough. I know that it's kind of hard for the cameras to see around the fence, but I feel like in that situation, if I'm driving, for me, I'm just trusting that that car is going to make that stop and not continue to drive through the intersection, whereas my car thinks, oh man, there's a car really close, we need to just throw the brakes on and stop. So it's little things like that where the software will continue to learn and get better over time. But yeah, oh, nice. I mean, I'm pretty used to that. I've used self-driving on, I would say, like larger roads that have, you know, multiple lanes driving one way and you have a lot of lights. So like almost like business districts where you've got shopping centers and stuff like that, where the lines are paved well, so it operates like a highway, and full self-driving worked. It was really cool to be able to have the car make all of those decisions for you, stop at red lights, go on green lights, chime at you when there's a green light. And there goes my GoPro dying again. All right, so I had to pull over again because my GoPro overheated, but I really want to show you the end of this drive because I think that this is where things are going to get interesting. Now, I think that this is actually going to be a pretty cool spot too to kind of test out full self-driving. I just so happen to pull over here. The car is coming to a complete stop. You can go. Go ahead. You can go. I'll give it a little accelerator. Go ahead, see? I'm pushing you through. Oh, it's telling me to take over. Okay. Alrighty. So, a little bit too tight for the car, but hey, learning experience, right? So now it's actually going pretty well. So, make a left turn up here. This is a little bit strange too. Look at this. It's got this like light post in the middle of the street. What is it going to do? What's it thinking about doing? I guess this is probably the right way to go. I mean, if I was driving, I would make this same turn. All right, so we are back on track here. Car made a weird left jerk turn there. Just so happens that the spot that I pull over, it has a little bit of trouble. But now moving in here, this should be pretty interesting. So we've got traffic coming from the right and the left. It'll creep forward. Oh, it's good. Yeah, nice. Actually made a nice turn there. Sweet. And see, that's the thing, is like these left-hand turns, what I'm noticing is it like makes the turn and then it cuts back and then makes the turn again. I'm not sure what its reasoning is for doing that, but I feel like with every left-hand turn, I've experienced that same exact movement, that same exact motion from the car and from the steering wheel. Okay, so coming up here, we're going to be on a fairly busy road. We're going to have to make a left-hand turn through a light, and then we're going to have to make a left-hand turn across, I think, 2 lanes of traffic, and then that'll be at the end of our drive here. Also, look, I am super sorry about having to continue to cut and having to continue to restart because my GoPro just continues to overheat. So this is, again, all a learning experience for me about how to best capture these drives. So just bear with me. I'm still learning the best way to do it. In fact, I was using the DJI Osmo Action 3, and I needed to just go and get a GoPro because really the Action 3 wasn't cutting it for me and for what I needed. So the GoPro's been handling these drives a lot better. All right, so we're making a left turn here. It's got a green light. It sees that car in blue, highlights it, nice. You can go. You can go. See, again, like, it does this thing where it, like, makes a left-hand turn, corrects itself, left turn. So, I don't know, just something to point out. So we're going to be making a left-hand turn up in this office complex here, and then that'll be it. There's not a lot of traffic out. I would love to take it out during, like, a really heavy traffic time and see what it does. I also wonder, is it going to use this middle lane? Okay, yeah. So it'll use the middle lane. It understands that. Come to a stop because these cars are coming. I wonder if it's going to try to get in front of this car. Will it? Will it? You got the time? Nice. All right. It made the turn. I wish it made it a little bit faster, but all right, we made it. So, first full self-driving first full self-driving drive was a success. And yeah, looking forward to do more of these. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on full self-driving, if you've got it or if this is your first time seeing it. And if you have anywhere in the Philly area that you're interested in having me go next, let me know. I think that I'll probably try in Philly or around Philly next to get a little bit more of a congested area and then work my way into the city. That should be cool. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.